Some say it was generosity. Others say it was strategy. But what if Andrew Holness's $600 million apology wasn't about peace, but power? Why did he really offer that money to Burkina Faso? And why did Ibrahim Traoré reject it? Because this wasn't an apology. It was a move in a much bigger political chess game. And the moment Traoré realized it, everything changed. In our last video, we witnessed a moment that felt historic. Cameras flashed, headlines praised, and millions believed it was the dawn of a new era. Jamaica extending its hand to Africa in unity. It looked genuine, emotional, even revolutionary. But behind that grand apology, whispers had already begun. Diplomats were talking about backroom meetings, secret proposals, and financial terms hidden beneath the speech. Why was this apology announced so suddenly? And why Burkina Faso, of all nations? The truth is, what looked like a bridge of friendship may have been a move on a much larger chessboard. And the man on the other side, Ibrahim Traoré, wasn't playing checkers. He was watching every move, every word, and every intention, and when he saw the pattern, he acted. Every story has a beginning, but this one didn't start with an apology. It started with a strategy. Months before the cameras rolled and the microphones flashed, quiet meetings were happening in Kingston and beyond. Caribbean leaders were under subtle but growing pressure from Western diplomats, urging them to strengthen ties with Africa. On the surface, it sounded noble, reconnecting the diaspora, repairing history. But beneath that idea was something more complex, a plan to influence Africa's new wave of independence. You see, Africa's younger leaders, especially those like Ibrahim Traoré, had begun rejecting foreign control. They were nationalizing resources, cutting Western ties, and promoting self-reliance. To the West, that was a dangerous trend. To counter it, they needed a new approach, one that didn't look like pressure but like partnership, and that's when Andrew Holness entered the picture. A respected Caribbean leader, young, articulate, and ambitious. The perfect face for a message that sounded sincere. We are sorry for what was done to Africa. We are ready to rebuild. But behind that emotion was a $600 million reconciliation and development fund. The public was told it would support African nations in trade, technology, and education. But internal documents, later leaked by insiders, hinted that nearly half of that amount would cycle back through Western development banks. To most people, this was just international cooperation. To those watching closely, it was a quiet return of the old system under a new name. Burkina Faso was chosen for a reason. Traoré had become a symbol, young, bold, unshaken by threats. If he accepted, it would set a precedent. If he refused, it would expose the game. So when Holness stood before the cameras that day, the world thought they were witnessing reconciliation. But those who understood the deeper pattern realized something else entirely. They were watching a test of Africa's resolve, and that test reached its breaking point when the apology went public. Then the world heard what Holness really said. Politics is rarely about what you see, it's about what you don't. And behind every handshake, every apology, every public smile, there's a calculation. When Andrew Holness stepped up to that podium, he wasn't just offering an apology, he was making a move that had been crafted, polished, and approved by teams of advisors who understood the art of political chess. His speech had gone through 7 drafts. Words like mutual growth, strategic alignment, and shared prosperity appeared, disappeared, and reappeared again, each time reshaped by unseen hands. It wasn't a statement of remorse. It was a contract disguised as compassion. The $600 million wasn't merely a number. It was a lever. A tool meant to open doors to trade routes, resource partnerships, and joint initiatives that quietly ensured oversight from Western-linked institutions. Every dollar offered had a purpose. Every clause had a shadow. To the public, it looked like progress. To those who could read between the lines, it looked like positioning, because if Burkina Faso accepted, it wouldn't just be receiving funds. It would be allowing influence to slip in under the banner of reconciliation. But what Holness and his advisors underestimated was the man sitting across the board. Ibrahim Traoré didn't play the game the way others did. While global media praised the generosity, Traoré's intelligence team began decoding the language within the apology, the patterns of diplomacy that often led to dependency. And when they were done analyzing, one conclusion emerged: this wasn't generosity, it was strategy. So while the cameras celebrated friendship, Traoré was already preparing his counter-move, because in chess, when one player moves with emotion, the other waits silently to strike with reason, and that counter-move came in the most unexpected way when Traoré responded to the apology, when the cameras turned off and the applause faded. Something in Traoré's expression remained unchanged, calm, unreadable, but deeply aware. To the world, Andrew Holness's $600 million apology was an emotional bridge. To Traoré, it was a puzzle, and every piece seemed to fit too perfectly. He didn't dismiss it immediately. He studied it. In meetings with his cabinet, he asked the same question again and again. What comes with this money? And what stays behind it? At first, diplomats from Jamaica and several Western-backed agencies reassured his government. No conditions, no strings, only unity. But the timing raised eyebrows. The apology had come right after Burkina Faso signed new trade pacts with other African nations, deals that intentionally cut out foreign middlemen. Coincidence? Traoré didn't believe in coincidences. His intelligence unit quietly began tracing the origin of the proposed development fund. The trail led through offshore accounts, European banking intermediaries, and a network of NGOs that had histories of acting as soft power arms for larger governments. The more they uncovered, the clearer the picture became. This wasn't just an apology, it was an entry point. A diplomatic key designed to unlock influence where direct control had already failed. In one late-night meeting, an advisor reportedly said, "If we accept this money, we may lose more than we gain." Traoré's answer was quiet, but final. "We will not rebuild our pride with borrowed bricks." When he finally responded publicly, his tone was calm, yet unshakably firm. He thanked Jamaica, honored its people, but declined the offer with dignity. And then came the line that would echo across continents. Burkina Faso does not trade dignity for development. Those words weren't just a refusal, they were a declaration. And though the world heard silence after that, behind the scenes, that decision set off a storm no one was ready for, because what followed wasn't just reaction, it was retaliation, wrapped in diplomacy. When Ibrahim Traoré rejected the offer, the world thought the story was over. But in politics, rejection is never the end. It's the beginning of the real game. Within 48 hours of Traoré's statement, confidential memos began circulating through diplomatic channels. Jamaican officials were reportedly reassessing the structure of the fund, while certain Western advisors pushed to reframe the narrative, to make it appear as though the rejection had been a misunderstanding, not a defiance. But behind those diplomatic smiles, panic had started to spread. Traoré's decision had sent an unexpected message, one that no one in those upper circles had anticipated. Africa is no longer for sale. The $600 million was supposed to be the key to open doors. Instead, it locked them shut. Several Caribbean nations, quietly observing, began asking their own questions. Who really designed this fund? Why were Western consultants involved in African reconciliation? And why was the fund's money routed through international banks instead of African ones? Holness's office released calm, carefully worded statements. But insiders claimed tension was rising. Calls between Kingston, London, and Washington grew frequent and heated. What had started as a global goodwill gesture was now threatening to unravel hidden networks of influence. And the irony? The more the media tried to clarify the apology, the more people began doubting its sincerity. Social media across Africa turned the story viral. Hashtags demanding transparency trended for days. For the first time, a symbolic apology had exposed something real: the invisible strings of global politics. Holness might have been the face of the move, but was he really the one playing the game? Or was he just another pawn in a strategy far bigger than himself? Because when the global reaction hit, even those who created the game started to lose control of it. In the end, the apology and rejection became more than a diplomatic event. They became symbols. For Andrew Holness, it was meant to be a gesture of unity, a mark of leadership. But for Ibrahim Traoré, it represented something else entirely, a reminder that even in the 21st century, influence often wears the mask of friendship. His refusal wasn't just political, it was historical. It was a moment when a young African leader stood tall and reminded the world that respect cannot be purchased, no matter the price tag. Around the globe, millions began to see the story not as a clash, but as a mirror, reflecting the past wounds of colonialism and the ongoing struggle for true independence. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Traoré's stance didn't just echo across Africa. It began reshaping how small nations viewed power itself, and that's why what happened next in the global reaction shocked even the architects of this plan. And so, what began as an apology has now turned into a global awakening. Andrew Holness's $600 million gesture was meant to heal, but Ibrahim Traoré's response reminded the world Africa doesn't seek pity. It demands respect. This moment wasn't just about two leaders. It was about two ideologies, submission or sovereignty. Traoré chose the harder path, the lonelier one, but perhaps the only one that history will remember. So now the question is, was it truly a trap or a test of integrity? What do you think? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, because your voice matters in this conversation. If you believe in Africa's rise, if you believe in truth over politics, then hit subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone who still thinks apologies can buy dignity. This is only the beginning, and you won't want to miss what comes next. And if you haven't seen our previous video, Western leaders shocked as Ibrahim Traoré exposes their hypocrisy at the UN. Go watch it now, because that moment explains exactly why Traoré was never going to fall for this trap.